Hello, welcome back. So today we are gonna look into the backend part of the application. We are gonna look into adding Algolia for the search. So if you look into the messages, then you can have a Google-like search, and we are gonna use a SaaS platform called Algolia. It's very similar to Elasticsearch, and they are very neck and neck. The difference being that Algolia is a software as a service platform, so everything is relying. You don't have to host anything. They do the scaling for you. They provide all the content and everything. Well, with Elasticsearch, you host it yourself on a server, and you have to manage it and scaling and everything like that. So, since we are using so many services like Auth0 and Hasura, I was thinking to use Algolia as well for the search, and we'll do a couple of interesting things, and we will use some advanced things coming from Hasura. First, we will need to sync the database. So each time when you enter a new message inside here, it should go in Algolia database. So we are going to use the events. So we will have like an event. Once you create something in the database, it goes to a serverless function, which will add the record inside Algolia. And the second thing is, I don't want to do the calls through the front end directly to Algolia, and I want to use Hasura as a source of truth, one single endpoint. So we are going to use this remote-schemas part. So it's basically schema-stiching, and we were going to create like an Algolia Graphql server, which will wrap the functionality that we need to retrieve data from Algolia. So basically, it's going to be a small serverless functions which spawns an Apollo server, and then this Apollo server will have a couple of resolvers that will wrap the functionality that we need in order to retrieve data from Algolia. So I think these are kind of interesting topics. In today's video, I will focus only on the part of the backend, let's say. So I will configure Hasura, Algolia. I will create all the serverless functions that we will use to communicate between the two of them. And in the next video, we will do the implementation on the front end. So today, no Typescript, no React. It's only Hasura and Algolia and Netlify functions. So for the serverless functions, I'm going to use Netlify, which basically uses Lambda functions from AWS. But it's much easier to use Netlify than using the serverless framework or just writing them directly inside the Lambda editor. Plus, they have a generous free tier, very generous free tier, so we are good to go. Okay, let's start with the first thing. So I'm gonna log in here with Algolia. I already think I have an account for this. So okay. Okay, so we sign in. I already have an application, so what I have to do is to create an index, basically. So I will call it Slack messages. Basically, this index is like a table, I would call it, or like a collection in MongoDB. So it's like a table in SQL databases and like a collection in MongoDB. So that's what we're gonna create, a collection. Okay. Now I want to upload the records. I'm just gonna add them manually because we go here, we go to the Graphql, and we get the message, and from there we get the user ID, the ID of the message, the body of the message, and the channel ID. So, and the date. What we are not gonna take, it's like the embedded stuff about the channel and the user. We could actually take it. But no, actually we cannot really take it, and I'm gonna show you why. Because when we create an event, we only have access to the things which are inside the table, not the relationships. So that's the reason why we can only take this part. I'm gonna show you later on what I mean. So I'm just gonna export basically my messages database, my messages table, and add it to Algolia. Okay, save. They've indexed the table, and now I need to configure it. So we want searchable attributes. So we want to search only on the body. We don't want to search based on the user ID or on the date or stuff like that. No, I'm interested only in the body. And then ranking and sorting. So I want to have a sort attribute. I want to sort by date, descending, ascending, I think, and custom ranking. We don't really need custom ranking for now. So we are kind of okay. So now if we go to browse and we look for React, we find everything which is related to React. One thing which we will need would be to have like some sort of a filter, because basically when you will search inside our front-end application, you will search based either whether it's in a channel or related to a user. So there will be like two functionalities: either you search in a specific channel or based on a certain user. You know that you had a certain conversation with a certain user, so based on the user ID you want to search for something that guy said. So, or what I said to this guy. So we need to make like a filter, because right now you basically search for everything, and I think the channels IDs are the same in this case, but I don't want to retrieve data which is, let's say, outside of a certain channel. So how do we create a filter inside Algolia? We just basically we go to configuration and we have facets, which is basically like a filter, like a search filter, and we would create an attribute, and we want to search by channel ID or by user ID. And now if we save the settings, and we go to browse, we see that we have groupings based on the users and based on the channel, which is really nice. Okay. Now, once we have Algolia set up here, what we need is to make sure that once we create some data inside Hasura, so basically once I add something to my Postgres database, I want it to be immediately added as well inside the Algolia database. So the way to do it is that we will need to have like an event trigger. Once we insert something into the message table, it will call a function that will insert something inside Algolia. So basically we need to create an event. We see here very well, they put a very nice diagram. So you call the Postgres database, then you have an event which calls a serverless function, which would then add stuff inside Algolia. So let's create a new trigger. I will call the trigger add message. We will select a table which is message, and we want to call the trigger on insert. But first of all, we would need to create first the webhook URL. The webhook URL is basically the URL where this serverless function is posted. That will do something in the event. In the event that you insert something in the message database. So as I said, we will use Netlify functions for serverless. So I'm just gonna go inside my repo, and I'm gonna create, I think this, I'm not mistaken, it's only the front end part. So I'm gonna close it and open editor like this. So we have multiple folders. We have the presentation, the one that's basically a PDF with my architectural decisions, and then we have the front end, and I would call it a backend, let's say. But actually it's not a backend. It would be like a serverless backend. So let's call it serverless backends. And for that, we would need to use the Netlify CLI, because we would try to create first the functions locally, test them, see if they work, and if they work, then we can hook them up with Hasura and test them again. So for that we need to have the Netlify CLI installed. I think I have it, but I just want to make sure that I have the latest version. Netlify CLI, I think. Okay. See, this is the same thing about the event triggers. When you create one, okay, and this is what it gives us. This is the object that it will be passed to the function. So basically what we would be interested is we have this event, as I think these are some session variables, which I think are the headers or something. The operation, I think it's insert, it will be insert, and the data. It will never be old stuff, because it will always be null, because we insert data, there is no old data. And what we will be actually interested is in the new part, that we'll have to pass it to Algolia to add to the database. So okay, that's interesting. We cannot install the Netlify CLI. Let's try to see, maybe I spelled it wrong or something. it still fails. Okay, I guess it's shouldn't install it as sudo, but let's try it. Sudo. No. No. Let's make this. No. Yeah, it was like that. pm install -g netlify CLI. Okay, let's try again. And we are gonna use, yes, Netlify dev, which would basically mock the Netlify environment so that we can call locally the functions and test them. Some of them I think we might be able to test them, some we might not be actually able to test them, but we'll see. Okay, so it installed. So for that, I think we need see how we can create functions. Dev functions create. Okay, so this is what we need. So Netlify functions create, and the name would be add message, because we will add messages to Algolia. No function specified. Okay. Functions, I will call it serverless functions. Okay, and I think for can get a nicer view around this by getting an extension. Which one is the most popular one? This one. Okay. And now it's nicely formatted and everything, so nice. Okay, then can we invoke again? Well, I already have this terminal, so I'm just gonna bump the font on this one. Wait. Okay, so we would do Netlify functions create again add message. No, it was like this: create -- name add message. It's a hello world. That's very nice that Netlify actually provides us some options, and we see we have a Hasura event trigger. Hasura clean process a Hasura event and fire off a GraphQL mutation with processed text data. We can try this one. It's not really what we need, but it's a good start for it. So no, have the serverless functions, and we have an add message function here. So let's put this one a bit smaller so that we can see it again. What do we have here? So we use Axios, we use bad words, we created a new filter. So what does it do? It tries to and this is the opposite of what we need. No, actually it's okay. So request event body. Yeah, this is, if you compare this with what we have here, that's exactly the same thing. So that's what we need basically, but we don't need all these dependencies. So what I am going to, we don't need, well, it's an okay keyword. So for that, I'm going to go to serverless functions, add message, and I'm gonna remove. I like to use yarn, so I'm gonna remove Axios and bad words. Okay, npm remove Axios and bad words. I'm gonna remove the package.lock, and I'm gonna add Algolia Search, which is the package that we would use to add stuff to Algolia, which is a JS library. We go here, dashboard. Okay, we were already in the dashboard, but where can we see the documentation? Algolia JS SDK. Okay, so that's what we need. Now, coming back to the editor. You're not. Unexpected, not found. Okay, I misspelled it, apparently. Okay, now we have Algolia, and we don't need this part. We don't need this comment. Vladimir Novik, it's a very nice guy, but and I think he's part of the Hasura core team. Request JSON event.body. This should be cannot parse Hasura event. We don't need Axios for this. I would actually do it very easy. I want to test if we can create an item using this function in the database in Algolia. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna say const record. Okay, we need to look in a bit into the documentation to see how we configure it. Instantiate the client index. Okay, so we need this part. For this first function, I'm gonna put it at the top because this should be reused between cold and hot functions, and we don't really need to instantiate the index every single time for every single request. So this part, which is outside of the functions, is shared across functions. So across the same function. So basically, each time when add message is called, it can reuse this part and it doesn't need to instantiate again the client. So and for that we need Algolia Search to be imported. We are gonna use require because we don't use Babel or Typescript to transpile this. There are ways to write these functions in Typescript, but for now it's actually, for the amount of code that we write, it's actually easier to just write plain JavaScript. This is the name of the ID of the app, and this would be the private key here. Okay, I'm gonna use them as environment variables. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go to Netlify. I'm gonna log in. I have this app which Slack clone, and if we go to site settings and build and deploy environment. So here I would add some environment variables. So I will add the, what do we need? I will add the app ID, the admin ID, admin key ID, and the index as an environment variable. So if you don't mind, I'll just do this in a separate browser window, because the most important one is actually the admin key, which should not be shared. I can reset it, but better do it right from the very first time. So if I go to environment, okay, so I go to API keys. I need to copy the application ID. I will put it. I have this admin key, which I will copy it. And I think those are the only two that I need. I will go here. I'll say process .env .algolia app, and the key would be process.env Algolia API key. So the Algolia app is this, is the application ID, and the Algolia API key is the admin API key, and this is keep it secret and use it only from your backend. My function acts as a backend, so everything is okay. This key used to create, update, and delete your indices. You can use it to manage your API keys. Usage API key. Since you see, we have also a search only API key. This is a public API key to use in your front-end code. This key is only usable for search queries. The reason why I'm using the admin API keys is because I need to create records in Algolia. So that's the main reason why I need to use this and keep it secret. So coming back, and here I'm not gonna put this as an environment variable. Should I put it? Or yeah, I'm gonna put this on as an environment variable as well, just to be sure. So I'm gonna call it Algolia index, and that would be this Slack messages. Okay, save. So that means that I can take this one, go here, and do process.env. The cool part is that I'm setting all these API keys inside the Netlify dashboard, and then using Netlify dev, I can access those environment variables into my local dev environment, as you would be able to see in a couple of minutes. So we have initialized the index. Now what we can do is to do Algolia. No, it's actually index. So we are going to use the index. So basically the Slack messages index, and then we would say add object, and let's try to add a dummy object for first, just to be sure that it works. So I'm gonna take from Graphql, give me a message. Okay. Just gonna replace this. User1, dummy, Algolia. Don't need this. And then we need to stringify the record that is coming. So we need to use a wait here, because this is not synchronous, this is a promise. And then we would stringify the result. So I think we can safely use here Netlify dev, which basically bootstraps the local server, and now I can try to do something like this. I can invoke the function. So Netlify functions invoke add. It doesn't find it. Function, but no matching function found in your functions folder. Pick a function. Yeah, but it doesn't see any functions. I think this server only runs if we have this folder called functions. So I'm gonna stop this. I'm gonna use this like this and try to run it again. Okay. No. Did I misspell it or something? Ah, I know why. We can put this back. We can rename this. Reason being is that we are calling this inside this. We are calling the CLI command from inside the function folder, but should be called from the root of the project where we have the Netlify toml file. So now if we do this, we see the Netlify toml file, and we should invoke the function, I think, from here. Yes, so we don't want any identity, and response status with 404. Yes, because we need to restart it because we renamed the server again. So you run it again. No. Okay, it's a 404. This is you see, it calls the functions folder, so we actually need to call this functions, unfortunately. So I got like a good feeling the first time, but then I dismissed it. Yeah, it still calls the status of 404. I don't really understand. Wait a minute. This is a bit strange, so let's try to run Netlify dev again. Okay, make this one bigger. Don't get why it responds with the 404. You know what? I'm gonna comment this part out. And I want to first see that this is running fine. Okay. Yeah, no. Still doesn't find it. That's really weird. So let's check here. Netlify dev. Any installed. And this seems to be fine, but doesn't find the function. So maybe what I need to do is to copy this code, delete this, and then create a function again. Netlify, create functions, create name, add message. But it's okay. You see, same problem that I had here. I was running the dev from the wrong folder, so it took a while to figure out again what the problem is. Now, why am I in trash? So C Slack. Okay, so we want Netlify functions create that message. Hasura. Okay. No. If I go here inside functions, add message, we'll do an npm remove axios and words, and I'm gonna do an yarn add Algolia Search. Don't need the lock, so we are using yarn, and inside here basically replace it like that. Okay, now coming back inside here, let's try again. So we run Netlify dev from the root. Okay, and if I'm running add message from the root, Algolia Search error. Please provide an application ID, usage, Algolia, application ID, API keys, options. I've set them, didn't I? At least it's running the function. Okay. This one. It's reloading, this is really nice. I can see. No. Okay, so the function ran successfully. No, let's try to run the thing again. If not, that would be quite funny if I cannot use the environment variables available in the dashboard. Netlify dev environment. So how do I set those environment variables? Okay, then you know what, I can actually put them here in the end, and I can rotate the API key. It's okay. So can do this only for the sake of running it. So message. Okay. So that we do this, and the body is the JSON.stringify. Record. Let's see if it's complained. Okay. Run the function again. No. Please provide an API key. Okay. API keys. Where is the API key? So I'm gonna put here the API key. Please don't use it during the stream to call too much Algolia using this API key. I will change it anyway at the end of the stream, but yeah. Okay, no. So it created an object, and now if we look inside here, we should have a dummy Algolia. Yeah, good. So it does create. Basically, we need to put this things back in place. I'm just gonna delete this record because it's not inside Hasura, so I don't want to have things orphaned. So now what we can do is first we have the request that this is fine, cannot parse Hasura event. Then we have the object which comes from event data new. Okay, so we delete this part and then call this JSON.stringify the record, and inside here we should have request event data.new. So it's basically this part here. Now I will save it. We cannot really test it locally, so I'm just going to deploy it. I'm gonna run Netlify deploy -prod. Yes, I authorize. What would you like to do? Link to an existing site. Choose from a list of your site. Twitch. Okay. So let's try it again. Did you forget to create a functions folder or to run build? Huh? Okay, this is fine. No such. But I have a functions folder, no? I mean, in general, this API ID seems to be the same. We have a functions folder. Okay. Did you forget? No, I did not forget. So I'm a bit confused. Configuration path. Slack clone. Netlify toml. Slack clone build. No such directory. Slack clone frontend build. Ah, okay. It basically needs the build directory for the front end part, and it requires this folder to be there, because I don't think we can deploy only the functions, can we? Deploy. I prod out. Yeah, so flags open. Yeah, okay, so we have it now. We can do this. Yeah, it worked. So now we should go here to functions. Okay, apparently I have more functions. I've created some functions yesterday indeed, but I'm surprised. Deployed 3 seconds. So is this my function? Because this is from yesterday, I think. Anyhow, settings and usage. Can I settings? Okay, never mind. What we need to do is, what's the endpoint of this function? Here it is. So I know, because this is not done to production, so we need to do prod to have the latest version. Okay, so functions. You see, now we have this function which I've deployed 2 minutes ago, and that's fine. This is what we wanted. So I copied this. Yesterday I tried to see how well it works, so that's the reason why I had those functions. So now we go in Hasura, we go to events, we create again the event, which we call add message. What do they call it? Trigger name. Add message. I'll still use camel case. Message insert. Okay. We have some advanced logic, how many times it should retry, but it's okay, we don't need it for now. Okay, so we have this. Let's try to create a message to see if it adds it to Algolia. So I think I need a channel ID. Just gonna copy this ID channel So let me say dummy Hasura event, user ID user1, and that's the channel ID. So now if I put save and I go to events, I have the add message and it seemed to have been delivered. And if we check the response, we have an object ID like this. So it seemed to have worked. So if I look now for dummy Hasura event, we find it here. So the first part we wanted to touch, and it took quite a while to do it, was to have this event trigger that once we create something in the DB, it's synced with the database of Algolia. So now what we want to do is to have a remote schema added. So what would be the case would be that if we go into the graphical here, we would see another query here that would allow us to retrieve data from somewhere else, and in this case would be from Algolia. And for that we would use again the Netlify functions. So let's create another function called Netlify create functions create and I would call it name Algolia Apollo server. Okay, so and this we need to take a preset and along stitching schema from other GraphQL functions. I think that's what we need. Do you need anything? Or Apollo GraphQL function using Apollo server lambda. We can try this one. Installing dependencies. We have a package.log, but that's fine. So let's have a look what we have here. We have an Apollo server, which requires this Apollo server lambda because basically Netlify functions run on top of AWS lambda. We have a type query, which has a hello query and all authors query, and get author by ID and get author by name. And this is the type of the author. We have a bunch of authors here, and this seems to be fine. And only for testing purposes to see that our remote schema stitching works, I will deploy it. So I'll call again Netlify deploy -- prod. So if I go here to my functions, I have this Algolia, so I need this URL in order to add it to remote schemas here. So I'll say add remote schema. This would be Algolia search. I'll pass the URL. We don't need any headers and stuff like that, I would say. I mean, we can use it for authentication, but for the time being, I'll try to keep it simple. So I would just add it like this, adding remote schema added successfully. That's nice. Let's check it into Graphql. If we check, we see we have this all authors schema. So let's get by name and by ID, for instance. So you see, it makes a call to the Netlify functions, and then I guess fetched it to 10. I guess this is Algolia server invoke. So this is when it called. So basically we have the staging in place. Now what we want to do is to be able to have a wrapper around Algolia Search so that we can retrieve some data. So we will start simple. We'll look at the documentation of search, search index, and I'm interested in the response. So I want to take this and I think we need to create a function first that would call this index and then create the GraphQL model around it, because I think I can take it like this and create some types inside here, but I'm not sure that I will match it 100%. But anyway, let's try to type it like that. So I'm gonna create a types file. I will only need GQL require here. Thought that they use import, but don't know why. Okay, so what else do we need? We need this structure, type definitions. So let's create export. Well, can do an export default do like this. My God. Okay, so what do we need? It's just gonna put it in parallel like this. So we have a type query, yes. And what queries do we have? Well, we basically have a search, and that's it. Search, which would return an Algolia response. And then we have the type Algolia response. Okay, and we have its which would be, I will define it later. We have page, which I think it's a number. and it's required number of hits, number of pages. This is more for pagination. I currently don't support paginations, but in the future I think I will, so it's useful to have this information. It's per page, number again, processing time, milliseconds, number again, and then we have the query, just string, and perhaps, sure, basically string again. So for the hits array, to have it a bit more like this, I want to have a type hit in the end. Can we do on GraphQL to extend some types? GraphQL extend type. Let's see. How do you extend types in GraphQL? Extends typing. Reason why is that why I want to extend is because these things are basically the properties of the type message. So I will have a type message, okay, and then inside here I would put what's inside here. Can we have docs query to so we have UID, which is a UUID, I hope this UUID is not something which is custom type. Then we have the user ID, which is a string. Normally it's a UUID as well, but since we started with user1 and stuff like that, that wasn't really UUID, so we stayed with the string. Once we clean the database, for instance, we could use a UUID. Then we have the body, which is a string. We have the channel ID, which is a UUID, and then we have the date, which is a timestamp. I'm not sure this is gonna work very well, but this type. I hope it's not a custom type created by Hasura. Okay, and then the type hit, it extends type person. Yeah, it's not really inheritance. But yeah, we can just put stand type message and we put these things. Highlight result. Which is basically a match. Type match. Which has I think the body, because that's the only place where you can have no, this is a highlight result, and then here we have the type match. Type definitions for the win. So it has a value which is of type string and the match level. Okay, which is again of type string. So we have here match and inside here you can have a highlight result which is of type result. Okay, so we created our types, I think. Now we need to create some resolvers. Don't need this. Okay. Where is it? Here. Resolvers.js. New const resolvers. I guess it's an object. Okay, and we export default resolvers. Okay, and if we go inside here, of course we don't have auto import like in Typescript. Require types and then const resolvers. Okay. I'm so used with Typescript that now it's so hard to type the imports myself. What do we need though? We need for the function first. I don't need the lock in the first place. It has GraphQL and Lambda and blah blah blah, which is completely fine. This one I don't need it because it works. So I'm just going to go inside functions, Algolia. I'm gonna say yarn install. I'm not sure I'm gonna be able to test this locally. Yarn at Algolia Search. let's see, Apollo lambda. No, I don't want to do deploying. Okay. Nice. Read the docs. Started. Install dependencies. Create a server. Okay. Okay, so we can actually test it locally. That's nice. Okay, so for the resolvers, I would need to require again Algolia const Algolia search. And then we can actually copy it from here. This one, save. Okay. Again, we need to copy these things. This is configuration of API keys. Okay. Okay. Please don't use this admin API key while I stream. Okay. Query. And we will have a search. Okay, which would you would have some arguments basically, and I'll do Algolia search. Would be index search params. Query, yeah. It's args dot q query, for instance. I think that's enough. I think this being returned like this is, it will resolve it as a promise. I don't think I need to put, but we shall see. So let's let's call node unexpected token import. Okay. Export default. Yeah. Module dot exports. There you go. And types. Same thing. Unexpected name message. Yes. Unexpected name message. So what's wrong with my types? Type person, type query. Should I? Okay. That's the first thing. Unexpected name message. I'm not sure where is this coming from. So I'm gonna try until it runs. Unknown type timestamps. Unknown type UUID. Yeah, so it's exactly as I thought. These are types which are specific to Hasura. So okay, what you don't like ID. Date. String. Oh, come on. Did you mean ID? Yes, I did mean ID. Unknown type. And this one is an integer. This that they don't. Unknown type UUID, but where do I have the UUID? Here. Okay. Okay, yeah. We could use this. For oh no. String. I copied that thing and now I lost my changes. But okay. But don't they have a create handler? Because I don't get what I know, because this is a Apollo server, so it won't work anyway. Never mind. Yeah, let's check it like this. Start. We don't have a start script, but never mind. But anyway, let's try to write again, just for the sake of unexpected name message. So I guess it comes from here. Okay, what's wrong now? Cannot parse the unexpected character. If I remove this, oh, this is so confusing. Like, the quality of the error messages is so bad. Okay, so that was okay. Oh yeah, it's because of this. But it will fail on the extend. I'm gonna put it here. Did you mean highlight result? Spelled it in the first place, so okay, so that's fine. But now I still want to do this extension. So yeah, I need extend type message. That's what I was missing. Now we do like this, and here we add the T, and then I think if we run it like this, it should be fine. Yes, good. So now if we read this again, run start lambda. Netlify, okay. We can use Netlify lambda to serve. And I guess if we use Netlify lambda, we can also build a function. Okay, I can add it as a def dependency and see if it works. Add Netlify lambda minus d. And then we have the scripts here to say serve, and it's basically Netlify lambda serve this. So let's try yarn serve. No Netlify found. Okay, then I'm not gonna test it locally. I've tried that package before and it was really cumbersome, so I don't want to use it. So I'm just gonna take my chances and directly deploy. Netlify deploy plort. Okay, it's deployed. Now if we go here, remote-schemas, Algolia Search, and we reload the schema, and we go to Graphql, we have search, right? So what can we do here with the search? Can pass query, and I say but I have an argument now. How do I call a channel now? By passing an argument. So I know why. Type search. I think here we need to add the parameter. So let me check again here. Type hello string. Oh, and I think it's an array of books in the first place. So that, yeah, it's no, that was okay. It's just that this one, it's an array. And how do I have GraphQL type definition parameter? How do we do that? Okay, GQL. GQL GitHub. Because it's obvious that and I want to call it search instead of a small s, but GQL type parameters. Okay. Mutation and input types. Type mutation, get message. Here. That's how we do it. So we have search and it expects query parameter which is of type string. Okay, so now we deploy again. Waiting to deploy, we got the remote schemas and reload the schema. Query search defined, but not in schema. Yeah, of course. I've changed the type, but not the resolver. So that makes perfect sense. I think this is not really the best dev experience that we can get. I think we should definitely use this package, or like Netlify dev blah blah blah. But this is a pretty simple use case. I think we can say React, and we want the hits, and from there we want the body and date, user ID, and what else do we need? Channel ID. Let's see if it works. It actually worked. I don't understand why we have duplicates. Ah, no, I understand why. Because we have multiple hits. So it seemed to have worked really fine. You can actually get the highlighted result as well. And I think inside here we can request the body, right? And highlighted result, what do we have here? No. And no. And match level and value. Match level full, and then it's good that we have this HTML strong tag, emphasis tag, because then we can add it in our front end and we can highlight that this is what you are looking for. One thing which I want to add before finishing is to be able to add some filters, for instance. So I think if we go to types, we can add filters, which is a string, but it's not mandatory. So if we go to the resolvers, then we can do facets. I think this, and I just want for the first time to take let's see here, search parameters. Yes, so yeah. So search filtering. Okay, so you can do like this, filters, and there it's args dot filters. We have the filters here. I want to see if I don't pass any filter, if everything works as expected. Okay. Schema. Reload it. Cool. Graphical. Yes, this seems fine. Let's try to get some messages from different channel IDs. So that this is always the same channel ID. Test from. See, we have a test from. Okay, so what we can do is like to say test from, and we get how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so we have 6, and now I want to do the filter, so I would only take this channel ID. So I think the way to do filters is in doing this. Channel ID, this one. Yes, it worked. That's nice. So it means it works. So basically, the way you do a filter is basically is by providing the property name, colon, and then the value. And you can do here like multiple ones and stuff like this. So we can search, for instance, or like narrow down or expand. I think we can do. I'll remove the filter. Okay. And let's try with an OR statement. So we have 8 blah 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 blah. Now let's try filters, channel ID, or channel ID. Like this. I think this is the combination. So you see we get the same thing. I think we can also do like a filter by user, for instance, but for that I would need to find test user to private. So we can look for a test inside this channel, for instance, where user is user2. So let's try it with search. So this is the channel ID and user ID equals user2. But yeah, because the query so we only have user2 inside that channel. So the search seems to work fine. Our Netlify function works fine. So I think this covers everything for today. We covered only the backend part. Basically, we set up an event trigger. Once you create a new message, it adds it to Algolia. We quickly set up some filters in Algolia to have like a search filter, so to speak. We've then created this remote schema stitching, which basically is GraphQL endpoint, which wraps the Algolia Search API. We do a very basic stuff, so there is nothing complicated in this. But it's pretty powerful, I think, what we've achieved with not too many lines of code. We basically have like 1, 2, 3, 4 files, and in total I think we have less than 200 lines of code that we needed to do in order to have all this nice functionality. What we are gonna do next time is we will implement the front end part. So basically we would have something like, oh, where's Slack? Take this chat room, and we will have something similar like this, that you do lesson, and we would use Algolia, and we'll fetch this, and we will append this nice highlight. Basically the highlight would be given by Algolia, like this. We would create this modal. I think we will use downshift to have like, do we need downshift? Because we won't do it exactly like this, but we would implement like a small meta language to have messages from this guy or from that guy or inside a certain channel. So we would play a bit. So I think we would actually have like a small downshift implementation. We would use downshift for having this nice options, and to be able to use these keyboard shortcuts, and we don't have to implement it ourselves. Kenzie Dots did a pretty good job with downshift, and it's pretty straightforward to use. It uses render props, which sometimes I don't like it, as I said before. For Apollo it was horrible to use, but in the case of downshift it's very, very powerful, because they only give you the functionality and let the styling to us. That's really, really cool. So we will use this library next time to create this fancy model, and everything will be based on what we did today. So we're gonna use this Algolia part in the next video, but it will be mainly on the front end. We won't touch again this part here, but really I'm pretty impressed with Algolia. You can see that I've just started using it. I still have a trial that expires in 12 days, but I think they have a pretty decent a free tier for what we need. So that should be fine for what we need. Yes, I will use anyway the community small projects. I mean, it's a small project, it's non-commercial, I don't plan to sell it to anybody, so that's perfectly fine. Things to remember in Algolia, you need to have a search attribute. For instance, I cannot search for user1, like it only gives me if it's inside the body, because I only set it the body property to be, the body attribute to be searchable. If I add more, I can say date ID and stuff like that, but I don't want to give the opportunity to the users to search for this kind of stuff. Then we can have ranking and sorting. I want to sort by date. I have to double check whether they come in the right order or not, because I want to show it from the I think it should be actually descending, to be honest. I want to show the newest one to the latest, to the oldest one. So yeah, as they gave it, it was perfectly fine, like descending initially, but I've changed it. Textual is the ranking criteria. I don't need a custom ranking attribute. Like they don't need to have a different ranking. I mean, I only want them to be sorted by date. I don't rank them by how important they are or stuff like that. Don't do any personalization. And I should pay for it anyway. Type of tolerance, you see, you can do a lot of things inside Algolia. Like you can type things wrong, so I think if I put it like this, it will still give me stuffs back, you see. So it even tries to find it right. So you see, it's very fault tolerant. We can play with it a lot here if you want something to be more strict or more generic, but I only leave it to the default ones because they are perfectly fine. We can ignore plurals, like for instance, if you type child, it will also look for children, for instance. We can set up synonyms for certain words, for instance, for React, you could add a synonym called component. So when you type React, it will also look for component or components. Yeah, all kind of interesting stuff. So list of words that should be considered optional. You can do this, like remove stop words. I think that if you, I'm not, if set to true, stop words are removed from the query before searching. Like if, I think it would be useful next time, because I will create like a small meta language to define what things you can search for, and I think I can use here the remove stop words functionality to strip them out, but I'm not sure. I can do it in the code as well. Camel case stuff, special characters, facets, really important to have this so-called filters. That gives us the opportunity to, like, it's like a group by, let's say, so we group by channel ID or by user ID, and then you can filter based on this, because in the end it's not an SQL database, it's a NoSQL database, Algolia, so you cannot really like do things like if body is equal to test and channel ID is not equal to that. So they need to do some magic for you to be able to filter. So a very important aspect are the facets. I think we can play with the pagination. It gives us default 20. We would actually go to retrieve a second page and stuff like this. See how we can retrieve the second page. So basically we would need to update our resolver function to accept like a page or something like this. I think we can look here. Let's try page. Yeah, you see. Or we can change the number of hits per page, but yeah, in the end we will implement like some sort of pagination and infinite scroll and stuff like that. Which we don't actually support in the messages, like we usually display all the messages inside our chat box. But once we implement this infinite page, infinite scroll for pagination for the search, we would use that functionality to also improve our results in the message window. So in there, if you scroll up, then you get older and older messages. So that's a good thing. Highlighting, you can change here. You can put like a P. So instead of being an EM, it would be a P tag or whatever. So a lot of good stuff. Everything was made so easy by using Hasura. So again, this event trigger that is calling our serverless function and then is adding the database and the schema stitching. This really is a really powerful feature. I mean, schema stitching, I think it's one of the best things that GraphQL can do. In the end, we have one GraphQL server, one source of truth, which is our backend, our Hasura backend, and then from there we can call different services. So in our case, we query the Slack database, so to speak, and then we query from there also directly Algolia, which is very nice. If we want, we can add like more schemas, like we can query, I don't know, the Google account or stuff like this. So schema stitching is very interesting and very powerful. And in the end, I mentioned all the cool stuff, but nothing would be possible without Netlify. They make it so easy to deploy, so that I'm running one command, it's lightning fast to deploy everything. So they made, basically you can use it to host your static website, but you can also use it for hosting functions. They are just a wrapper on top of AWS Lambda, but they make it way more easier instead of going into the Lambda code editor, which is horrible, or fighting with the serverless framework to manage to deploy. This is very easy, and they have a very generous free tier, so I can invoke the function 125,000 times. So it's quite generous. I mean, I still have a lot of invocations left. I mean, for a very small function, for a very small application, this is more than enough. It's true that Lambda has a different pricing than this one. It's actually you're charged by the number of compute time and the RAM that you use, and it's way more generous than this, but for testing it's more than perfect. Plus they have this nice CLI, not only to deploy but also to create like boilerplate. So yeah, I think we played with some cool stuff and it went quite well. I think the main problem that we had was to figure out from where to call the Netlify CLI, but the rest of the stuff went quite smooth, so cool. Well, I'll see you next time when we go for the front end, and till next time, all the best. Cheers.